Flights are pricey, planning feels chaotic, and that trip that keeps getting pushed because you're too busy or travel's too expensive. Welcome to Points, Cards, and Travel. I'm Ross, the founder of Itinerary Boss. I've made the mistakes of doing this for 10 plus years so you don't have to. Each week, you'll get practical tools, point strategies, and expert guests with real use cases so you can travel better for way less using points and miles. Quick thing before we bring on our guests, if you're new here, go ahead and grab my free 5 step roadmap to your next free 5 star luxury vacation and the one card that gets you there, which you can find in the show notes. Now, let's bring on our guest and get into it. Welcome back to Points, Cards, and Travel. I'm excited to have on a repeat guest, Lauren Perussault. She's coming back on because she took action and she signed up for a credit card after chatting with us. She got a welcome bonus, and then she went on her honeymoon and saved 4 grand in St. Lucia. And now she has some big stuff coming up this year with Spain and some other stuff. So really excited to bring her back on and chat strategy. What's up, Lauren?
Hey Ross, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you coming back on. And these are some of my favorite episodes because we're going to talk through how you went from, looking at cards, spreadsheets, and you're someone that loves to travel and right, you know how to plan trips really well. And just when we talked, you were overwhelmed and you're like, it took 5 minutes and just the some of the rewards and some of the just successes you've had is awesome. So I'm really really excited to have you on here. But just before we chatted and before you got, let's take it back to last year. Like what
Yeah.
did your credit card setup look like?
Yeah, it was definitely pretty simple. I got, my first like points card and it was a free one, so it was the Chase Freedom card. And really I just was getting it's like 1.5 points or 1.5% on each purchase on pretty much anything. And then I think over time they added boosters over the years, like 3 times for flights or something, but nothing crazy. And I mean, even from that perspective, I was like, wow, I am getting, extra money spending on my credit card that I always pay off monthly, thankfully. But I felt like, oh, this is awesome. So it felt rewarding. And I knew there was a whole entire more of this world that I was not part of. So I knew I was getting like a taste of it, but definitely not to the extent that I wanted to be, utilizing this points game.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I appreciate you sharing. I think it's for people who are first time listeners. If you don't know what I'm already all about, it's, first get the right foundational pieces in place. Like credit cards can be detrimental, but if you have, right, if like what Lauren just said, if you're already paying it off every month, they can be very rewarding because you're already spending the money. And if you like to travel, that's kind of where it takes it to the next level. So yeah, then just talk to us about, you had that one card, it was simple, but were you looking at other cards? Like
Yeah.
what were you doing in the background and what then, yeah, I guess talk us through
Yeah.
that.
So obviously that's kind of hot to you, but I just always in the back of my head, I was like, I know there are a bunch of other cards and I think it was almost like every year. I know I did it at least twice because I could pull up my analysis in my Word document. Just, looking at pointsguy.com, whatever the website's Nerd Wallet, and I'm doing all this research. I think there were so many cards out there that one, it was just so overwhelming. And then two, which card was right for me? What did I want to get the most out of the card? How would I benefit the most, right? Based on my spending. And I think it was just overwhelming. And most of the cards I was looking at were, $300 annual plus. And every year it seems like there was more on the market, there were more changes. And I think every time I wanted to make a decision, I just got nervous and I was like, you know what, I'll look at this another time. And another year went by and I just kept using my 1.5 points that was good enough for me then. And now where I am, it's funny because I'm like, wow, I could have gotten, the card I'm on today, I don't know, 5 years ago when I did start looking into it.
Yeah, no, I trust me, I get it. I mean, I lived it, right? Like I always like to
Yeah.
say I made the same mistakes. I mean, I was traveling out for work and was planning our trips, but the first when I got the Capital One Venture back in 2016, like I blew it on a statement balance credit, right? I
Yeah.
so
Oh, yeah.
another friend told me to get the Sapphire Reserve and like then I was like, whatever, sure, I'll do it. But I think it's that annual fee, and it is a lot of information. It feels like a second job. And for if you don't like start to break it down, right, and you look at, well, what's this going to spend for me? Because not everyone always asks, what's the best card? And it's like, if you're a single person out of college, you're going to have a completely different, right, perspective than if you're 10 years into your career and you have higher expenses, right? You have a different lifestyle than if you have kids, right? So there's so many different just things that go into it. And then when you look at, like you said, it's always changing. There's always different cards. So that's where, it does get overwhelming. But
Mhm.
you mentioned like annual fees and you're always looking at like the $300 ones. Was there anything that was like risky or that for you, you felt a little bit hard to justify paying for an annual fee?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if it was at the time I was looking at it and maybe there weren't a lot of benefits, or maybe I wasn't looking at it from that lens even of, okay, it's a $300 card, but what else am I getting out of it? I remember one of the biggest things I wanted to get out of a card was a lounge access. And I think, even at that, I was just looking at that and I was like, it's $300 worth it. And I don't remember what it could have been, the Chase Sapphire Preferred that I was looking at. And I didn't even look to see, okay, what are the other benefits, right? What makes up this $300? Because I'm sure we're going to get into it that a lot of times that annual fee pays for itself as long as you're kind of listing it out and saying, I can 100% get that back and it's a free card then. So, yeah, it was just, $300 at the time. I just didn't feel confident in throwing that away. And what maybe I wasn't looking at the right stuff and I just didn't have, I'm looking on the computer. I didn't have someone to talk through, my reservations with really was the key, I think.
If this episode's helping you out, could you hit that follow or subscribe button and also leave a quick 5-star rating wherever you're listening? Yeah. Okay. No, so that's, I guess, what finally made you to decide to take action instead of being like, I'm just going to read keep looking at this
Right.
spreadsheet.
Right. So for those that don't know, Ross and I think we got engaged a little bit after you and Audrey, and then also we're planning a wedding like a couple months after you. And I remember, you were just talking about obviously your business now and but really around, hey, I'm paying our wedding's paying for our honeymoon, and that kind of perked my ears up. And I know you and I have talked, but that just kind of in passing, and we finally sat down and had that conversation of, okay, well, what do you really want to get out of it? Even just comparing between the Chase preferred and the Chase reserve, right? That's a big price jump, but really talking to someone who had that knowledge already and had gone through it. You having the reserve, I think Audrey had the preferred, so you had experience with both. And then even my fiance at the time, husband now, right? He was also interested in getting in on this points game too. So we kind of put that strategy together, and really what changed it was just talking to someone live and that knows, maybe a little more about our spending habits and what we want to get out of it, made it a no-brainer. So once we had that conversation, I was like, hey, send me my sign up link because let's do it. Why not? And it is a little embarrassing that I didn't pull the trigger earlier, right? But it really just took that conversation and feeling confident to do it because it is, you just don't know. You hear all those stories about credit card debt and stuff like that, and that's the last thing you want to do. You just want to feel confident about opening up a new credit card and that it's the right one, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because you went straight to the one of the highest annual fee cards, which was, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you're gonna use it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, from the wedding standpoint, for anyone out there, I mean, if you're getting engaged, if you're planning a wedding, like they ain't getting any cheaper, right? And you say wedding, they're hitting you with, oh, we're going to charge you 30% more. So the
Oh
best
yeah.
thing you can do is do not write everything went on a card. And it's also thinking through, where are you getting married? Are there hotels that you can use cards to get room blocks? Are there, right? Because like for us, we had, we were doing it at the Kempton, which was a room block, and we were doing our welcome dinner there, and they had an IHG 5 free night bonus. And I'm like, I'm gonna get that, and you earn 26 times the points on every dollar you spend. So like we got 5 free nights that covered over 4 grand on a free vacation to Grand Cayman. Like those,
Yeah.
and then like opening up others, getting welcome bonuses, like you said, covered flights, hotels, all that stuff to Thailand and Bali. And then for you guys, right, it was, I mean, it was St. Lucian. We'll get into that, but it was a quick, it wasn't like, oh, we planned this out for 18 months. It was, hey, this is coming up and this is going to be like a quick, right? We need a quick win. So how do we
Yeah.
do that? So yeah, I would love to just hear, like, you had wedding expenses. How did you kind of map that out? And then what did it like cover? Like, how did it impact the St. Lucia honeymoon?
Yeah, so obviously lots of wedding payments, and then on top of that, we had a lot of trips. We had our own wedding and then had six, or sorry, five other weddings last year, including a couple, good friends where we went on batch trips and also destination weddings. So with even that spend, just off the bat, I think I probably hit both Brady and I hit our sign up bonus pretty quickly, right? So probably within a month, 2 months we hit it. I think you have 3 months usually to hit it. So just upfront knowing that we were 100% going to hit that sign up bonus was, you know, we felt good going in and opening it. And then you're right. So I think we both opened our cards in February. We booked our honeymoon. So we went on our honeymoon in October or November, and we booked it, gosh, like 4 or 5 months after we opened the card, like pretty quickly, right? There was just a lot of expenses, and so we were able to do it. And I didn't have to wait, right, to rack it up. It was a very strategic time. Like, I think if I waited another month, I could have missed that window. But yeah, so we finally decided on St. Lucia. So then we said, all right, so we have these sign up bonuses plus some other points. Like, I was able to move all of my Chase Freedom points, which is a huge bonus. Because not everything on the preferred or reserved, I have the reserve, yeah. On the reserve is not 1.5 points. So anything I don't make on the reserve, I put on my Freedom and I can combine them. So what did we do? I mean, Brady opened the Capital One Venture card. So he had enough points to pay out, I don't know how many points it was, but round trip for both of us to St. Lucia. So that was a little over $1,200 for both of our tickets. We did fly American, so American doesn't do the transfer partners, so it made sense to go through the portal. But so that was 1,200. And then the fun thing was really learning about the Chase Edit hotels. I didn't even know that was a thing when I signed up, really. That was, not one of the big perks that I was like, oh, this is making me sign up. It was an added bonus, or maybe it was a new one that came out I don't know, after I did it. I'm not sure. So with those Chase Edit hotels, they have like those partnerships with, I don't know, they can be all different kinds of hotels, but including the like five-star luxury hotels, which I was totally shocked at. And the big thing was I was able to get, it was like a boost point, so two times my points. It was worth two times those points, and I was able to pay, what was it, like basically half of our trip at a five-star boutique resort for 5 nights. So what was that? I'm just looking at my notes. $2,700 saved. So that is crazy. I don't even want to know how much it would have cost if we weren't using our points. And I feel like we probably would have not stayed at that nice of a resort, but we really were able to go into our honeymoon. And, we did have a honeymoon fund. Thank you to all that contributed. But we didn't even have to use as much of that because we were able to just use use our points strategically and get that. So it was awesome. I mean, me and Brady were both like, did we just like steal something? What are we doing? Is this illegal, right? It's not. So it was awesome.
I think no, that's that. I'm cracking up at the last thing because I think
Yeah, it did.
people think once you do it once, you're like, is this legal? Is this a
I
scam? Am I going to go
I
to jail?
know.
And I think people probably still think they're like, is this guy running a real company? And it's like, no, trust me, I'm not. I'm an idiot. I left a great career to do this, but but no, that's awesome, and it's cool to hear just in a year like what that did. And it's not just about here's the money saved. It's also we wanted to thank you for listening in and mention if you want help applying this to your own spending and trip planning strategy, that's exactly what the Reward Strategy Lab community is for. You can find details if you want to join within our show notes. Now, back on with the show. Here's where we got to stay, right? You got to
Yeah,
stay at a place that you probably wouldn't have paid for. You guys got to go to an amazing, right, St. Lucia, and that's somewhere we want to go. And it's like, that's a well sought out destination. And you got to experience now using the Edit Hotel, which is cool. Like those are very, very nice hotels. So no, that's awesome. And your flights were covered. Something to just to help out with when you are so American doesn't allow Capital One points transferred, but there are partners that are alliances, which I know you know now
right.
that you can use Chase and Capital One points to transfer. Which is that's how since I work from home and don't travel much on the business side, but
Mhm.
that's how I use most of my points is transferring, Chase, Amex, Capital One, over to those different partners. But yeah, that's the fact that you guys did that. You had an awesome trip. I'm pumped. So now
Yeah.
let's talk about, right? Like now that you've gotten into this, you're a year in. Um, what else has it opened up for you, and how has your mindset kind of shifted?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am thinking about which card I need to use every time I swipe. I still only have two cards, both, the free Chase card and the Chase Reserve. I've like contemplated if I need another one. I feel like right now I'm okay. What's next for me is kind of piggybacking what you just said is I want to figure out how to use the transfer portal. So I think that's another area as someone who has tried to do the research on it, I'm still not fully clear on how that works or not so much how that works, but when is the right time to do it, right? They drop those specials I don't know, throughout the
Transfer
year.
transfer bonuses.
Right.
Yeah,
And so that's what's next for me from a learning standpoint. But obviously, our next, what we're kind of saving up our points for is our Spain trip that you and I
let's
will be
go.
going on together. And I'm excited for that. and definitely, taking tips and tricks along the way from you planning it. So, but no, it's awesome, right? So, because you're like, all right, when do you want to use your edit credits, right? What um what else do we have? But right, like being
Yeah.
strategic and thinking it through, and I probably hadn't even thought about that until you brought it up, and I'm like, oh yeah, good point. We get those 250 twice a year credits. So I know we had said we'll probably use it in Barcelona. And then just looking at where else, we can strategically save with flights, right?
Yeah.
Getting over there. So yeah, I've been saving up my points as much as I can. I've had a couple of flights I've had to book, and it hurts to book it with the cash, but that's okay because in the end, I will get it back.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where you got to kind of strategically think, I think, for people who are going through that and they're like, okay, where do I do this? Do you only use points? Do you only use cash?
Yeah,
If there's a cheap flight, sometimes you use cash. There's actually a
yeah,
really good tool. I interviewed the CEO. It's Points Path. It's 20-minute podcast interview we did. It easy plugin that compares. Everyone's used to Google Flights, so it's a free plugin that compares cash versus points price. So if you're newer to this and you're trying to figure that out, that's a really good tool. We did a 25-minute interview. You guys can go back and check that out if you're wanting to. But no, I agree. I think it's lining those up. And, that's, I think, one of the challenges now with some of the credit card companies are they are trying to make it harder and doing what we call couponing, where you get this credit, this credit. But I think the Reserve has done a phenomenal job as of recent where it's not just the 250, every 6 months. Now they've combined it where you get 500 and you also get another 250 so you get $750 in total hotel credits,
right.
which when people start to say, "Oh, is the annual fee worth it?" There goes your annual fee. That doesn't start to include the $300 travel credit.
Yep.
Boom, you're 200 right in the green. And then there's other things that you layer on top, like going to concerts, doing date nights, right? StubHub, 150 each, 6 months. Like you can go to a
Yep.
concert and do a date night. You can go out to dinner. That's what, 1,200 bucks? Like that's where it starts to rack up. Apple TV,
Right.
like and then lounge access, the Chase Lounge, like those are the
Yeah.
things that, yeah, when you're looking at annual fees, for people who might have that hesitation, gotta look into that stuff because that's where you get that outsized value.
Oh yeah. No, and exactly. Stacking those up and just knowing, okay, right off the bat, my new card cycle already went through, already got the $300 annual credit, right?
Yep.
And it's almost immediate.
Yep.
Same with the StubHub credit, right? I think normally I would never buy anything on StubHub. We usually use like, I don't know, TickPick or something more of a reselling, like lower cost, but you're the one who reminded me. You were like, hey, we have this comedy show, you should use the StubHub. And I was like, wow, there you go. And it's like we paid half the price, buying the resale tickets off of what we normally use. So it really is just stacking it up and making it make sense for you. And you've even made me passionate about this. I was visiting some friends 2 weekends ago. They travel a good bit. And I was like, wait, what kind of cards do you guys use? And I just went in on the ramble, and you've met them, and I'm like, guys, come on, like Ross is a friend, you gotta talk to him, and I went on, I gave them the stack of, the Chase Reserve of why it works. And even a couple, I don't know, like a month ago or something, we are going to Miami, and we got delayed 7 hours at the airport, and I was able to get my two girlfriends into the lounge there, right? It was the CLT lounge, so part of Priority Pass. And we were in there for 6 hours just eating, drinking, and really having a comfortable place. To me, that is worth like minimum $300 in my opinion, right? Think about if you were sitting at just a restaurant there, if you were eating and drinking for 6 hours, that would have been a
Yeah.
$300 tab easily. So it's just making it make sense for you, and, and then feeling confident about it, and then just not forgetting the benefits you have and make sure you're using those. So I do have a little like a notes app in my phone so I don't forget. And
Yeah.
I'm checking them off slowly.
Yeah. No, 100%. And another easy way to do that is there's other apps out there too. Card Pointers is a great app. We had them come on the podcast. It keeps track of all your, all your benefits, all your points, like all that. Or Award Wallet keeps track of that. But it reminds you of those things. So there's
Okay.
there's so many awesome apps that people have created because they saw the pain points of you got an Excel sheet, you got a notes app. I did the same thing and I still kind of do, but it's right
Yeah.
when you get those in place, it definitely helps. And yeah, I think you bring up a great point. It's like families who travel, like you're spending at least 100, $200 on food or drink,
Oh,
or if
yeah.
you get stuck. So it's like just factoring in those things. I think a lot of times people don't. And once they realize, oh crap, like, and you're starting your vacation when you get to the airport. Like that's the best part about it is
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not stressed out. It's your vacation starts when you leave the house versus great. We have this long flight that, we got to pay for.
I love a lounge. Like I told you, I started looking into cards years ago because I wanted lounge access. I used to, if I had a long layover, I would pay just the entry fee. It was like 80, $90 just to go in. But sometimes they wouldn't let you in if they were at, capacity. So they had to
Hmm.
let the members. And it just is an elite, like, status or an elite feeling. And I could not, I mean, if you're like me, it's totally worth it, just for that almost, most cards, right? But the crazy thing is, even adding that in, you're still usually getting your money back, just from the off the bat credits they give you. Where the lounges, it's you just counting the money yourself, right? You're not seeing a credit. Every time you go in, you should consider that about, I don't know, 50 to $100 in my opinion, depending how long you are there.
100%. No, you couldn't have said it better. Well, no, I appreciate you coming on. This has been super helpful. Hopefully people who are listening in found this valuable. And look, I wanted to bring you on because I was in, that position years ago. You were right. You were looking at stuff. So it just helps because a lot of times, like you said, you get online, you see all this stuff and you're like, I don't know if I want to make this decision. And you have analysis process. I get it. Right. That's why I started, this podcast and my company was to help people around that. So yeah, our next we'll get you flying business class. That's when you get transfer. That's when you get the real elite lounges, and it gets really fun.
I cannot wait for that. So we'll have to have another strategizing meeting to get me to that level, because business class is calling my name.
100%. Yeah, and we just for those listening, I know Lauren was mentioning a couple things just around if you're trying to learn how to do transfer partners, you're trying to do that type of stuff. Um, I know a lot of people are asking because we work with high spending business owners mainly, but a lot of people who are struggling with that were asking us to create this. So we actually recently just launched a membership community that helps you get the right cards, make those decisions, and share those other things where other people are struggling with those. So that helps walk through all those specific use cases and all that. So that's linked in the show notes if you want to check it out or just shoot us a DM. But Lauren, really, really appreciate you coming on again. And last thing, if someone listening feels overwhelmed, tired of looking at spreadsheets, still stuck in analysis paralysis, what would you tell them?
Honestly, just come talk to Ross, talk to someone who knows the business, talk to someone live, and that really will make you feel more confident about your choices instead of just wasting time, or, spending time you might not have researching. And don't be like me waiting, 5 years when I could have been in the points game a long time ago. So definitely, take Ross up on his strategy lab, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So definitely worth your time, I would say.
I love it. Time is money. That could have been
It
20
is.
grand.
It really is.
Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Really appreciate you tuning in today. Before you go, again, if you're new here, grab my free 5 step roadmap to your next free 5-star luxury vacation and the one card that gets you there in the show notes. The main takeaway from today is you don't need more time or money to travel better. You just need a simple plan and the right strategy in place. My final thought is travel is supposed to feel exciting, not overwhelming. Take one thing you learned today, apply it this week, and your next trip gets easier starting now. We'll see you next episode. Really appreciate you tuning in.